Hello and welcome to Ijaz News. I'm Jawad. Tehami, Pakistan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister, Mr. Ishaq says, let me quote, Pakistan is ready for dialogue with India but not desperate for it, unquote. He has also stressed the need for a comprehensive dialogue that includes terrorism and also the core issues such as Indus Water Treaty. Also, Pakistan's Foreign Office has a high-level delegation or the parliamentary delegation led by Chairman of Pakistan People's Party and former Foreign Minister Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari concluded two-day visit to the United Nations headquarters in New York. The delegation had very important engagements over there with the top leadership of the United Nations as well as the members of the United Nations Security Council. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari has made some important statements in his presser over there as well, which will be, of course, taking up for discussion. Also, Pakistan will be chairing the Taliban Sanctions Committee of United Nations Security Council for the year 2025. Pakistan has also assumed the position of Vice Chair of the United Nations Security Council's Counter-Terrorism Committee. Meanwhile, what we have seen is Indian opposition leader Rahul Gandhi has criticized and accused Prime Minister Narendra Modi of surrendering under pressure from US President Donald Trump during the so-called Operation Sindoor. Also, Indian Congress leader Shashi Tharoor has hinted at conditional talks with Pakistan. Will also be taking the analysis regarding as to that particular tone with this particular statement by Shashi Tharoor. All these important matters are for discussion in today's show. But before heading towards the panel, we have some important statements made by Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari during that particular presser over there in the US. Let's take a watch of those first.
India has been targeting Sikh activists across the world. They've done so within Pakistan, where the Indian government has funded defunct terrorist organizations within Pakistan to conduct assassination of Sikh activists within Pakistan. The Indian government has engaged in similar criminal activity in Canada, where they've targeted Sikh activists in Canada. The Indian government has engaged in similar criminal activity here in the United States. The policy of the RSS or the BJP government to the Muslim minority within India is not something new. It's a known fact. What they do within their own country is up to their own system. When they start implying that all Pakistanis are terrorists as a result of the fact as a result of the actions of a few terrorists, I believe that's demonizing an entire population.
There's another very interesting statement made by Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari as he has drawn parallels between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and being a poorer copy of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Let's take a listen.
Mr. Modi is sort of the Timu version of Netanyahu. Okay? It's a poor copy. And we call upon the Indian government to not be inspired by the worst examples possible. We pride ourselves, we in Pakistan pride ourselves that we're the heirs of the Indus Valley civilization.
We, of course, urge the Indian government not to be inspired by the policies of the Israeli government. Let me quickly bring in our esteemed panel of guests who are joining us both in the studio as well as online. Mr. Awais, Marshal retired Ijaz Malik, senior analyst. Mr. Malik, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Also in the studio, we are honored to be joined by Dr. Awais bin Wasi, Indian affairs expert. Dr. Wasi, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. On the video link, we are honored to be joined by Mr. Baloch, former ambassador. Mr. Baloch, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Mr. Malik, let's talk about these two very important statements made by Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari in this particular press. Let's begin with the second part of that, where he has drawn the parallel of Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi being a poor copy of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Of course, we see since that aggression that has been unleashed by Israeli regime over the innocent people in Gaza, and that very inspiration seems to be taken by Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi as far as his aggression regarding IIOJK is concerned, on the Muslim minorities within India is concerned, and the recent aggression against Pakistan. Your understanding regarding this particular parallel policies of Israel and India?
Well, I would agree with Mr. Bilawal's comment with an addition that while Mr. Modi may have taken inspiration from Netanyahu, Prime Minister Netanyahu, but he always had those germs of brutalities in him, because he was known a proven criminal as butcher of Gujarat much before what happened in Gaza or what is still happening in Gaza. So I think, and then we move on to the in Indian illegally occupied Kashmir. Obviously, that is a theatre where exactly the the same tactics are being applied on people of Kashmir, and I think it is very fair to draw those similarities. But once it comes to dealing with Pakistan, I think that is where, if Mr. Modi thinks himself that he is strong enough to take on Pakistan with that kind of aggressive stance, then probably he is mistaken. And I think this should be the first lesson Mr. Modi should take home after this 4 days war with Pakistan, and after that he should reconcile with his own status, which is nothing more than a butcher of Gujarat.
Right, and there is criticism that is happening from the Indian opposition as well. I'll come back to you with that particular aspect. Also, Dr. Wasi, the Foreign Office says during this particular engagement of this high-level parliamentary delegation, of course led by Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, the former Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Pakistan reaffirmed the commitment to combating terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. Also, we have seen there is a track record of Indian side, and especially this assassination campaign, transnational state sponsorship of terrorism, the extraterritorial and extrajudicial killings being perpetrated by both Royal and serving army officers of India, and that leads back its connection to the very highest seat over there, India, directly to the Prime Minister of that particular country. And this particular bogey that India plays all the time, pointing fingers towards Pakistan. Regarding this particular engagement, how important and necessary this particular engagement at the United Nations was at this particular critical juncture?
Yes, the issue of terrorism, as India has always been claiming since the beginning of this composite dialogue, that Pakistan is not ready to discuss the issue of terrorism. But in 1997, when we formulated this composite dialogue process, terrorism was included in that process also. Later on in comprehensive dialogue, it was included there. And now the 4 points that Pakistan is proposing currently at the moment, terrorism is an important issue that is included. So as a external former foreign minister, Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, very rightly pointed out that Pakistan is the victim of terrorism. Pakistan has lost 90,000, more than 90,000 people. So Pakistan is relatively more, sufferer of this terrorism. As far as India's track record is concerned, as you have mentioned in your question, that is very questionable, and international community should look into that. For example, that when we see the track record of transnational terrorism, so in transnational terrorism, on the as we discussed that in other countries there might be some non-state actors that are involved. The case is India is different in this context. That the state is behind these terrorist activities. For example, that in Canada and in US and even in Pakistan, the killings they were abetted and they were patronized by Home Minister Amit Shah. So not only one country is saying, the Global Intelligence Network that is also endorsing the views of the leaders. So in this context, so I think that when terrorism is a pressing issue which Pakistan is facing and India is also facing, so I think it should be brought on the table and it should be discussed, and the world should call upon, or the world should compel or press India that India should come on table and discuss this issue of terrorism, because India is using terrorism as a tool instead of addressing this issue, instead of rooting out this menace. India tries to use it as a tool, not only in mainland India against Muslims, but in Kashmir and in Pakistan as well.
Dr. Wasi, India facing terrorism, I mean, Pakistan has been the victim of terrorism. We have lost so many lives because of this scourge. Being the frontline ally in the war on terror, not only on that particular front, we've also lost billions of dollars in the economic losses. Specifically talking about India, I want your take regarding that later on. How India has been victim, because there has never been any sort of evidence that leads to any other involvement. Rather, what evidence we carry with ourselves, which we have shared with the international community, that actually lead back to Indian state sponsorship of terrorism. Whenever an incident of that nature happens, either in IIOJK or within India, there is no evidence presented by Indian authorities that could lead somewhere else. So that leads us to naturally conclude that things of that nature happen from within. There is a track record of that also. I'll come back to you for that. Mr. Baloch, when we talk about these high-level delegations, we've also seen Indians sending their delegations to multiple countries as well. We have also seen this particular diplomatic push by Pakistan in order to put Pakistan's perspective during the recent standoff with India. I want your comparison regarding as to what were the major outcomes as far as the success of both of them is concerned. We've also known Mr. Shashi Tharoor gave a very irresponsible statement regarding as to the statesmanship of US President Donald Trump. Firstly, how do you compare it? And also, when there was the engagement with the United Nations Secretary General of this, Pakistan's high-level delegation, and with the President of the United Nations General Assembly, there was an appreciation from both the leaders of Pakistan's restraint and a mature approach during the recent standoff.
Thank you, Jawad. I think that's what exactly is the outcome, what Secretary General said. And that is what reflects the impression that Pakistan has made from the beginning of this crisis. As I've been always saying, and I'll reiterate, that Pakistan's narrative is based on credible evidence, is based on truth, is based on reality. While contrary to that, India from day one has been weaving a narrative of falsehood, a narrative of half-truths or no truths at all. In fact, it's starting with the flag operations. Let's see that, is it just Pahalgam or much before? Actually, it goes back to 70s when the Ganga aeroplane was taken. That was a false flag operation, which resulted in disruption of the flights between East Pakistan and West Pakistan. So I think this doctrine is very, very old, of false narratives, and the world knows it. And I think they have been fully exposed within their own country, the state, and out and in the world as well. And in fact, if we don't want to compare, because they'll do their bidding and we will state the facts on ground. But there are four things I want to really these thoughts that I want to really share with you and with your audience. That since taking over of the government by BJP in Delhi, what has happened to the state of India? In my view, it has metamorphed into a state which is nearing pariah state, or a rogue state, or a state sponsoring terrorism. How? I'll come to that. First of all, if we look at how they started off, was the entire philosophy based on hate of Muslims especially. And now, with the profiling of Pakistan, with the profiling of the Muslims, I think India has turned into the epicenter of Islamophobia. So I think the Islamic world has to be told this and has to be shown this ugly face of the state of the present state of India. Number one.
Right.
Number two, the other important thing which we have to really note is that false flag have been a policy prescription for the Indian government to wage wars of aggression, wars of terrorism on its neighbors, especially. I mean, we are frequent victims of Indian aggression based on false flags. Number two. Number three, what has happened that it has started to engage into extrajudicial killings, which is transnational, and it is part of their state policy. What else? How do you define otherwise as a rogue state? That is what it does. That it doesn't care about the sovereignty of other people, but goes in and gets killed innocent people. In fact, the case in Canada and the case in the US is a evidence by itself. And then I think that the elections, that is sort of distortion of highest order. To win an election, you wage a war. To win election, you stigmatize and victimize a community. I mean, I think there couldn't be worst distortion of a state and rot of a state. I think the Indian population, Indian people, thinking people have to get rid of this gang of terrorists.
I get your point, Mr. Baloch. I'll come back to you. Mr. Malik, there is a statement by opposition leader Rahul Gandhi is accused, and there has been a scathing criticism on his part for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi having surrendered to the pressure from President Donald Trump during that so-called Operation Sindhu. I want your understanding regarding that. Also, there are a number of other statements which are supplement to this particular statement by Rahul Gandhi. I'll take your view regarding that also. But before heading to that, your understanding regarding that very admission by the Chief of Defense Staff of Indian Armed Forces, General Neet Chauhan, that the Indian aircrafts were downed by Pakistan. And then there was a demand from within BJP of his resignation after that admission. Do you think, and there was South Asia Index claim as well, that the military leadership had told the civilian leadership of India that there would be losses, but they acted otherwise?
Yes, Jawad, we have to correlate this interview of their CDS with the channel that you mentioned, Bloomberg. If we just go back, just before this conflict actually unfolded, there was a media, news that their Vice Chief of Air Staff, who voiced his concern about their then readiness status versus Pakistan, in particular Pakistan Air Force. In their Defense Committee on Cabinet, he was sacked. Then you have to also put it in the context this very detailed pressure by the Air Chief of IAF, who very openly raised his voice and shared with people that if the Indian Air Force is expected to perform under the political leadership to meet certain political objectives, then it has to be equipped accordingly. It has to be trained accordingly. And he came up with a long list of things which were promised.
But they were equipped after that very Operation Swift Retort, their misadventure, and Pakistan's response in that Operation Swift Retort, they inducted Rafales.
Yeah, that was one aspect. S-400 was another. But still, the Indian Air Chief wasn't comfortable with the force comparison or the combat readiness of IAF versus PF. This is what he alluded to. And then comes the statement and interview of the CDS, General Chauhan. I really felt sorry for him because a professional soldier was put in front of camera to justify or evade the criticism of their political leadership. And while he could not and he cannot, nobody in this present environment.
Do you think he was purposefully sent before the camera with the consent of the political leadership from there, or was his appearance a depiction of the widening rift between the political and the military leadership of that country?
No, I don't think so. It reflects the rift, but he was purposely put there to share the brunt
so
of.
Why then the demand of resignation from within BJP? Subramanian Swamy.
Right now BJP itself, the hawkish elements in BJP, they are even criticizing Mr. Modi himself. So this poor CDS is no exception, I would say, because the kind of political capital they have lost. Actually, they had raised the ante so much by creating hype in media that obviously people, the public at large, as well as their own core leadership, their in the government, BJP government, they were expecting now to perform accordingly. But the war turned out to be quite different than what they were briefed or they were promised. So this criticism is genuine, and I think the military man coming in front of camera, obviously he was trying to not to speak the truth, and as well as not to tell the lie also. So he was trying to evade the question, and in the bargain he divulged the information. I mean, any sane person could glean through his body language as well as the wording that he used that yes, they have lost aircraft, and this is part of any aerial combat. So,
and then he went on to say that there were lessons to be learned as to what went wrong, rather than counting the number of the downed aircraft. So after, if they were learning something, so their Air Force was grounded for 2 consecutive days after they were hit. So is that what they learned, or that also garnered a huge criticism from inside, that how can the operations can completely go grounded?
Exactly, the Air Force that they were claiming to be having a potential of creating an air superiority for them over Pakistan Air Force. That Air Force, the latest weapons on a platform and weapons on their inventory, they were grounded not out of choice, but they were grounded out of compulsion, because PF had literally put them on ground, and who all dared to come in the air, obviously they too were grounded.
Right. Dr. Wasi, this particular statement and criticism by Rahul Gandhi of Indian Prime Minister of having surrendered to the pressure of from US President Donald Trump during that Operation Sindoor, do we understand that Rahul Gandhi and his party wanted the war to go ahead and the situation to escalate further by looking at this particular statement? We understand, of course, BJP is driven by that Hindutva, that militant supremacist Hindu ideology that drives them, what they've been doing since taking the power for the first time until this 3rd consecutive term since 2014 now in 2025. Do we understand that Congress is going ahead as far as that very desire of escalating the situation with Pakistan is concerned?
I think that the statements which have been made by Rahul Gandhi and Mamata Banerjee and some other political leaders against Modi and against this the particular statement that you have alluded to about Rahul Gandhi, I don't think that they want to escalate or they want to continue that thing. They want to have a political mileage of that, because the BJP in the 3rd tenure, its popularity has been significantly dwindled, And
But
rest of the
let
things
me,
that we will
stop
see.
you for a second over here. If we go by that very logic, that it's just for the political purposes, this particular statement by Rahul Gandhi, then why does he bring in that reference that he compares and makes a contrast of the current leadership's response with that of the former Indian Prime Minister Indira Gandhi during the 1971 war? Now, 1971 war, it was not, of course, Bharatiya Janata Party. It was Congress at that particular time. Then he goes on to that, bringing in that character of Gandhiji, Nehru, Sardar Patel. They stood up to the superpowers. These people just fold. So if they didn't want to escalate the situation with Pakistan, the Congress and its leadership, why bringing in these historical references and particularly alluding to that 71 saga?
You know, first of all, that as far as the BJP's leader statements are concerned, they are quite jingoistic, and that reflects the warmongering. But when it comes to Congress statement, especially the reference of 1971 that has been made, it has been established within India that Pakistan cannot be militarily defeated. So my understanding is that they are doing it just to to damage Prime Minister's reputation and to have the political clout and to have political mileage, because in the past that you have seen that Congress has significantly improved its tally in the current elections, and by making such statements, Congress in the upcoming Lok Sabha elections and in the state assembly elections in October in Bihar and other states. So I think that the political clout that Rahul Gandhi wants to have, because as far as the reference of third
Or
party,
the similar, same sort of a pattern, the pattern which was being followed by Bharatiya Janata Party and Narendra Modi, of course, to win the elections and have the political mileage. Is he also following the same line?
No,
just to win the elections or
as
to
far as
capitalize
BJP,
the situation for political
exactly,
gains?
as far as BJP is concerned, the damage or the defeat, that has been caused recently. So I think that they, as they are saying that their operations Indore is underway, and the statements are coming from Home Minister, from Prime Minister, and from other leadership. So there is a possibility that they can trigger, or they can, kind of any adventure that they can do that, because all the people that do are helmet affairs in India, for example, Amit Shah or their Foreign Minister and Ajit Doval and all these people, Rajnath Singh. So they are basically the warmongers. So they can do, nothing is out of question as far as imposing war is concerned, they can do that. But the important reference that they are being made is that the diplomatic humiliation that they have faced because of mediation of the United States, and not only the one tweet that has been given by President Trump. President Trump has been consistently saying it, I think 10 times he has mentioned it, that I'm the person that who has de-escalated it, and that
So
is the clear. That is the clear reflection.
What's
of the
wrong with that? Why isn't it acceptable to the leadership in India, neither to the BJPs nor to the Congresses? What's wrong with anybody if he is being a mediator in bringing a ceasefire?
I think their statements are self-contradictory. The reason is that BJP says that this issue is bilateral, but practically we can relate a number of incidents in which BJP itself sought mediation. For example, 1999, when Kargil happened, Prime Minister Vajpayee requested President of the US for the intervention, and due to that intervention, de-escalation happened. Same is the case in 2001 standoff between India and Pakistan. Third-party intervention, because of third-party intervention, de-escalation occurred. In 2008, in Pulwama. So all these incidents, if you see it, so there is a third-party mediation, third-party intervention is there. But what India says, that is self-contradictory. If there is no role.
But do we understand that they wanted actually a zero-sum game, and that was what they had thought at the outset, and that actually didn't turn out to be true?
Exactly, you are right. Whatever they have, conceived, that Pakistan is facing problems and the diplomatic clout which India is enjoying. India perhaps thought that US and other powerful world capitals would stand with India, and the kind of diplomatic victory that they had got in 2009 after Pulwama attack, there is a severe humiliation India faced in this time, because in The immediate statement that came after United States Security Council non-permanent statement, in which that was a clear reflection that the world has taken a position that is largely neutered, and those countries which were expected and supposed to be stood with India, they didn't do that. So that was a diplomatic humiliation, and because of that they are making that statement.
Jawad,
Right,
if I may add,
please quickly, I have to go to Mr. Baloch as well.
Exactly. You know, the basic assumption which was made for India to launch, this state-sponsored false flag operation and then a conflict, it was on the premise that world, particularly United States, would stand by, on diplomatic front with India. So that was the notion which was conveyed and which was prevalent. And if you recall, the initial response of US was that this is an ongoing pattern of conflict between two countries, and it is up to them to resolve. And it was much in line with that bilateralism mantra. But later on, with Pakistan's success and Pakistan's victory, the situation changed. And on their request, President Trump has to intervene. So this definitely is seen by Indians as a defeat on diplomatic front, which the bubble was created by the government, and I think they are justifiably asking them to respond to that failure. So that's where I would agree with Dr. Saab.
Right. Mr. Baloch, once considered a strategic partner, we had seen that very open statements regarding from the State Department as well. We've also seen the kind of relationship that both Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the US President Donald Trump enjoyed, particularly when we specifically go a little back in history, that rally that happened in Houston, Texas, Howdy Modi, back in 2019. Now, the United States did not back India during this particular blatant aggression, even once. That very first reaction by President Donald Trump was when he came to know that India has attacked Pakistan, that this is shameful. Now, afterwards, the kind of narrative Indian media tried to build and to question as to how US President could be a mediator in bringing a ceasefire between Pakistan and India, then there is a pattern of continuous statements on part of the Indian opposition as to questioning and accusing Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi first being silent regarding this clarification, and then questioning as to why this ceasefire was reached because of the third-party mediation. How do you think this is having, as we speak, an impact on the bilateral relationship between India and the US?
Definitely. I think, in my view, it has qualitatively changed the nature of relationship that was being projected by the BJP to its own people and to the world at large, that now they are the strategic partners, so they can do what they want. So there was this notion of what I always say, the delusion of grandeur. And that was because they thought now they are in the company of, they are on the big table and they are in the company of big boys of the world. So I think this is where they made strategic errors and misjudgments that US, yes, had for its own reason, political, geostrategic, geoeconomic, was trying to prop up India as a counterpoise to China. But I tell you what, this our operation and our reply, a befitting reply to the Indians on the battlefield, has brought in doubts in the minds of those people that if that is their competence, strategic competence, technological competence, and their capacity to be part of the bigger game. They can never be. They can't even manage their own initiated by themselves. So I think there is a lot to be said, but we'll see how it unfolds. But the very fact that US president kind of coerced India to sort of stay back, to stand off, or maybe as the story goes, that they went to the US, that enough, now we can't take any more. So perhaps that is what they want to hide from their own public, because the problem is that now the BJP regime is really hanging by the thread in their own country. That's the issue. So I think whatever statements come in, whether against America or against other, even Europeans, they said it like that. So as we saw it, that it was only Netanyahu and Israel which were standing by them. So definitely, I think it's going to be a review in the US. And perhaps that buhamni that we saw, that honeymoon between the US and India will be no more. In fact, the way he rushed up and tried to manage to be among the first Asians to meet Trump after his election, I think he went within the first week. But we could see his body language. You and me both must have seen it, and the talking points, they were there. And Trump, who has in his mind America first, he couldn't care less. As long as, and of course, I think they have been trying to come up with a new trade deal with America. That is not happening too. So I think, and in fact, there was a report that the Indian economy is already getting a hit because of the tariffs on steel, iron and steel by the US. So I think we will see a shift, and I don't know, maybe not that I'm a Pakistani, I'm saying that, but believe me.
Are we not witnessing that shift, Mr. Ambassador Baloch, already?
Yeah, it's there. I'm just coming.
It doesn't seem to be an ordinary shift at this particular point in time. This particular bilateral relationship seems, as to me at least, in quite horrors at the moment, as far as that very understanding between the two, as far as the trade between the two is concerned. And that could be the possible stumbling block between the two.
Yeah, definitely is. There could be many. In fact, there will be many. In fact, of course, trade is the major issue here. So the point that I wanted to bring out is that India finds itself now strategically alone, diplomatically alone in the world. And if you look at the destination of their delegation, where they're going, I mean, Guyana, of all places, which I don't know whether they would have visited ever before their delegation went. So that is their level.
The members of the Security Council, non-permanent members of the Security Council at the moment, when we talk about the international law, now, this particular delegation, as per the Minister of Foreign Affairs here in Pakistan, the delegation also urged the international community to uphold international law and sanctity of treaties, push for the revival and the normal functioning of the Indus Water Treaty, and support the initiation of the comprehensive dialogue to resolve all outstanding issues between India and Pakistan, including the core dispute of Jammu and Kashmir, strategically isolated at the moment, India. Now, this particular very issue, there has been a positive response as far as the United Nations Secretary General, United Nations General Assembly President is concerned towards Pakistan. How this particular time could be taken or could be, we could capitalize during this particular phase of pushing the international community or the United Nations Security Council for making India dealing away with that very suspension of Indus Water Treaty and also revival of it?
Yeah, I think, Jawad, these two issues are very vital. The Indus Water Treaty is suspension, which is totally illegal. And I think the world is with us. The statements coming in is that it is for the first time that a country is using water as a weapon of war, or water as a weapon of revenge against its neighbor. And that too is a downstream, the lower riparian. So it's in violation of so many international treaties. In fact, one of the provisions of the law on rivers or the water judicial distribution, is that if they use it as a weapon of war in peace, it is a crime against humanity. And if they use it during the war, it's a war crime. In fact, India has been subject to both the crimes. That not only that, in fact, it was 2016 that this infamous statement that he gave it, Modi, that the blood and water cannot flow together. And I think he has got a befitting reply by our
this
leaders.
particular point in time by the UN or the major powers regarding the revival of this. Your quick remark regarding that, sir.
Yeah, I think we probably have to go to those forums. I think they cannot do it, but we have to go to ICJ. We have to go to the. I think immediately we should go to the UN Security Council and bring in both the issues, that is Kashmir, which is the underlying and foundational, and the Indus Water Treaty, that they should bring in a new resolution if we get enough of support. Yeah.
Ambassador
Yeah.
joining us from the video link.
Thank
Thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Mr. Malik, we've also seen another important development happening. Pakistan has assumed the vice chairmanship of the Counterterrorism Committee of the 15 nation body, the United Nations Security Council. Now, those allegations, that accusations from India pointing fingers towards Pakistan, how big is this a setback for India, Pakistan assuming this vice chairmanship of Counterterrorism Committee?
Although this chairmanship came to us through a different process, just happened to be, in the same, time frame. But I see it as a wonderful opportunity wherein Pakistan has now a forum or a platform to re-emphasize its state policy about how do we condemn terrorism in all forms and manifestation, and also plead our own case as the biggest victim of terrorism globally, I would say. Even in 9/11 and what happened the 2 decades after that in the entire world, Pakistan has sacrificed the most. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for Pakistan to sensitize the world what is our stance and how are we the victim, and propose remedial
There is a
measures.
human rights activist, Julia Kendrick, says this development has decisively discredited India's unfounded allegations of terrorism against Pakistan, exposing them as politically motivated. Dr. Wasi, unfortunately, we're short of time. Your quick reaction to this particular statement by Shashi Tharoor that we are ready to talk with Pakistan again. The same mantra, without any evidence, again bringing in that very issue of terrorism, conditionalizing it, this particular possibility of talks.
I think this is not going to work out, and the same conditionalities, as I referred earlier, that the same conditionalities India was already doing it, and these conditionalities have been, we have, without these
Dr.
conditionalities,
Wasi,
they have
Indian
not
affairs expert,
converted.
I seek your pardon for the interjection of it. I'll have to end the show over here. Mr. Air Vice Marshal Retired Ijaz, Malik, senior analyst, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.